From Craig Rolson in Europe, David Gerber in Brazil, and our editor-in-chief and publisher, Don Oshman, it's time for this week's Sunday Night Week in Review.
Good evening, and welcome once again to another edition of the HideNet This Week HideNet Market Report, covering Europe, North America, Latin America, and This Week in Leather. My name is Don Oshman, Editor-in-Chief of HideNet Market Reports. Thanks for joining us again. This week, quite eventful, actually. In Europe, Craig Rolson reports, who happens to be in Europe this week, commented how the show season's over and everybody's got to go home, go through their samples, see what they can do, follow up on their connections, and hope that they can generate business to pay for all these shows and all this effort. Prices are still very high in Europe, too high, buyers of course say, but also there's the ongoing problem of financing and buyer resistance to these levels because somebody's got to make something out of this raw material. And the the leather buyers, whatever they might be making, keep complaining. Even the automotive people, it just can't go on forever, these prices. So there's more and more resistance. The US dollar strengthened against the euro this last week, and it's been the trend of late, and that's helping European exports to Asia because the Italians generally seem to be tapped out at these prices. And there's a consensus seems to be building amongst the European industry for lower prices ahead, but not so far. That hasn't happened. UK-Irish market, Craig reports, are generally stable so far. Again, the underpinnings, a little bit of talk, maybe they'll get prices down. Their edge seems to be off the European veal market. Not weak, not going down. It's steady so far, but again, like other selections, are we getting near a limit? Lamb sheep markets are still under pressure with the exception of double face, which seems to be okay. The Russian situation has a lot to do with that. The Russian situation has everybody concerned. As of October 1st is the arbitrary deadline for shipping hides, doing trade with Russia and all kinds of other products. Is it going to come to pass? Can the European industry, as Craig reports, find a way around it? Can they ship through some other countries? Seems to be, as we commented before, when there's a will, there's a way. But it remains to be seen what's going to happen, how strict the border crossings are going to be for product. Somebody commented there was a show in Moscow recently, and 150 Italian tradespeople were there in the leather business. So people think business is going to keep going on somehow, some way. We'll know more October 1st, and that'll be in our next issue of the European Market Report. In North America this week, prices trended lower. Steers, which have been the stars of the market, actually fell $1 in some cases, or at least for a weekly study in others. New business the slaughter is below historical productions. It's very low. We killed 571 or 572,000 animals in the U.S. this past week, and normally it would be 620,000. And the slowest season for meat consumption, and therefore the lowest kills are coming in the fourth quarter, which starts this week. So some people think the slaughter could be down 30,000 heads a week. We're already down 7% for the year. So that's keeping sellers thinking, well, we don't need to sell. And if you look at the outstanding report of wet blue and raw salted hides that are sold but not yet shipments, statistically at least, producers are still about 5.5 weeks forward sold. So there's no tremendous pressure, but the market fell regardless. The cow market remains depressed, very hard to move. Branded cows, the most prodigious part of the cow sector. And dairy cows even came down a little bit. So the whole structure just came down. In this week's issue, we have a report on global cattle supply. We also talk, as I just said, how sales, we didn't say that, but sales surpassed slaughter and shipments due to a large wet blue export. Some of that is cumulative, some of that is long-term contracts, and some of that are producers who can't get out ahead of it, having to dump wet blue. Well, anyway, it seems to be rectified because, as I said, the forward sold position in the industry seems pretty good. Again, we were right with our market prognostications. In every issue, we say what we think the market's going to do for the coming week. Last week, we predicted steady at best, and it wasn't best. It came down a little bit. So we're right about 85% of the time. And if you read our reports, you can be also right about 85%. And add that to your own knowledge that you pick up in your own correspondence and communications all during the week. So we always say HideNet doesn't cost, it pays. Check us out, HideNet.com, free trial. You can even get a subscription if you don't like it. We'll give you your money back. You can't beat us. That's it for North America. In Latin America this week, green prices are still too high in Brazil. Very, very firm as these tanners compete for the hides they want to make the wet blue they need to make. And it's just higher because the market itself for wet blue and crust and finished leather is softer, but not the fresh green price. Argentine prices are firm as well, with continued low slaughter keeping that market up, and pretty good automotive demand and other. David Holz reports from Brazil, in Novo Hamburgo, our editor there, that there's more Brazilian wet blue and more splits available each week that aren't being sold because of price. Asking prices now for the benchmark TR1 full substance wet blue are $210, and is being ignored by sellers who are trying to buy at $2 and closer to $205. So that's what's going on there. And again, even the crust, finished leather, resistance, even from automotive. So all the markets, wherever we go, are like getting up to here. So will everything go down? Will everything go down a lot? Read our reports and see. There's a very good report in this week's Latin American issue of CIP is doing a unique thing in getting consumers to buy more leather, be aware of what's leather. Excellent job, and we report on that. This Week in Leather report talks about how U.S. footwear imports costs have gone up per pair. They're paying more for all the footwear that comes into the U.S. this summer in the quarter. New leather contracts are being made, the brands with the tanners, but the tanners say it's not enough, and the brands say we can't afford to pay any more. Ongoing battle, but at historically high prices. Also a story in This Week in Leather about the trend, the mega trend, if you will say, how more and more footwear manufacturers are leaving China for other destinations in Asia. We have a report on the Natuzzi, the Italian upholsterer results, their quarter. Also a very interesting story how Lear, after acquiring Eagle Ottawa in automotive upholstery, is taking advantage of that already and expanding their operations in Europe. Also a very interesting report on the luxury sales trend in China. All of these Gucci and Smoochie purses, but all kinds of other luxury goods are slowing, and that's because of the crackdown on corruption in China. A lot of this extra money that was flowing around is not. There's even, you might read how Macau, the gambling center, is losing business because Chinese consumers aren't that flush as they were before. Also, we talk about a EU proposal, which is in our European market report too, how lower Chrome 6 limits in the EU. That's not done yet, but it's in the process. Long report tonight. Sorry to give you so much information, but I hope that's what you want. Thank you for watching. We'll be back again next Sunday. Look forward to your hearing us again. Thank you.